Joe Sherman was a wonderfully smart, witty, absolutely keen on all the arts kind of person.
A poet. He was a critic, an art critic, a publisher of Arts Atlantic.
One of the most important Atlantic voices in poetry.
He knew a great deal about the visual arts, loved music, and he played a mean baron.
Man about town, public intellectual.
I would also add that he had superb taste in single malt whiskey.
Joe described himself as the quintessential maritimer. He was born in Nova Scotia, went to university in New Brunswick, and we eventually moved to Prince Edward Island, so he felt that he had covered the Maritimes like the dew. In 1979, we moved to Prince Edward Island, to Charlottetown, where Joe became the editor of Arts Atlantic, which had been founded the year before by the Confederation Center of the Arts. And this job for Joe was perfect.
He was a patron of the arts. If you went to his house, it was totally filled with beautiful artwork from all around the Atlantic Canada. He was always bringing in writers and encouraging writers, especially Prince Edward Island writers.
Their home was one of the centers of the arts community, where there would be parties, and parties turning into ceilidhs, music fests. And Joe was very knowledgeable about and devoted to literary arts, one of Canada's finest poets.
Love for the arts motivated Joe. Interest and love and dedication, and the fact that through Arts Atlantic he was able to meet so many people. Joe had bad days, of course. One of his bad days would be when he got the first, run of the magazine after he'd worked on it, because no matter how hard he had worked on the magazine, there would always be at least one typo, and that would just set him off.
He was such a perfectionist. His material in Arts Atlantic was beautifully written, always impeccably edited, and very deep.
He just went from strength to strength in that job. It was the perfect job for Joe. He was the perfect editor for Arts Atlantic. He dedicated his life to it.
Joe was an extremely hard worker. He played hard, he played a lot. Nobody was more social than Joe. He had more parties for people. But boy, did he work so hard.
Feeling that Prince Edward Island culture and Atlantic Canadian culture needed to be out there in the world and to portray it in his best way possible.
And that's his legacy, because that's who he was.
If Joe were here tonight, I think he would feel very proud. Just be very happy that he had been recognized not only as a poet, but also as an editor of a magazine that had a profound effect on the arts and culture in Atlantic Canada.